Rise Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise Awakening, hear the call. Through the shining, we break the wall. Your station, your voice, where dreams awaken.
Rise Awakenings, let's rise together.
Start with the quiet parts, the things you hide behind your laugh. Sit with the ache a while. Let every question breathe and ask, who was I trying to be? Who am I when I just stay? Name every tender scar and let them have their say. Till your heart carries you. This is the blue.
Pages of old beliefs, stories that kept you playing small. Lay them out on the floor, see which ones never fit at all. Offer your younger self a kindness you never knew. This is the bloom from the soil of
Hey everyone! Good morning and welcome to the Bloom. If you are new here, this content I share is based on my own personal experience and the knowledge that I've gained along my own healing and educational journeys. And the information, of course, is always shared in the greatest degree of love. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. It's just meant to assist you along your journey. And I'm going to get to the chat questions in the order in which they are received as fast as I can, as fast as Micah can, the man behind the curtain. Speaking of which, thank you, Micah, for just being the miracle worker behind the curtain. And thank you to Stephanie and Michael for what you're doing also to help Micah behind the curtain. So I appreciate you all. And this is a judgment-free, safe space. We can dive a little bit deeper into your own personal growth and evolution if you'd like. I am a self-mastery and transformational coach and a trauma specialist. I also practice Sikhem Sikkim Reiki. I'm a master teacher and fully ordained minister with a spiritualist and metaphysical church that teaches love. So, that being said, find me on healingrose.org and let's dive into radical acceptance. What the heck is radical acceptance? Okay. Peace begins the moment we stop arguing with reality. Let's start with that one little statement. Okay. It's not about agreeing with everything that happens, and it's not about getting approval or passivity. It's the act of saying, it is what it is. Ooh, that statement hurts a lot of people sometimes. Like, no, I'll say it is what it is because we need validation to know that we're feeling. Okay. But it is what it is, and I choose to meet it with awareness instead of resistance. We'll make that the complete statement. Because when we resist the reality for what it is, we create suffering in our own lives and in our own minds and in our own hearts. When we accept reality, we create space for transformation. And that's why we're all here. We are here to transform our lives, right? And I'm working with my Lemurian quartz today, so you'll see me rubbing on it. Okay, so what is radical acceptance? Exactly. It's the practice of fully acknowledging the present moment without judgment, denial, or avoidance. It's simply just accepting what's happening in this now and the reality. And it's deeply transformative because we're not fighting what already exists. We're not wishing reality were different in this particular moment, and we're not adding layers of emotional resistance to what is already happening. Okay? It's a practice in knowing that you're safe in the here and the now, and catching yourself before you go into that internal battle where we say things like, this shouldn't be happening, and I can't handle this, and this is wrong, and whatever else, or I can't accept that happened to me, and all the stuff that we say to ourselves very realistically. But we create tension in our nervous system. We create this feeling that we're not okay and we're not safe with ourselves. And what radical acceptance helps us with is to know that we are safe enough to face whatever it is that we're experiencing. That'll help us bring us back into that parasympathetic state in our nervous system. It'll help us bring clarity and relieve ourselves of the chaos. It'll help us give ourselves a moment to process in a way that gives us an opportunity to address the circumstances and situation or event or whatever it is that we're struggling with in that moment. It helps us gain the clarity that we need to make the decisions that are for our overall health and well-being. So when I talk about processing triggers, when Micah and I talk about processing triggers, my favorite thing is hit the pause button, right? That's the first thing. Pause button. What happens after the pause button? That's when we start looking at the circumstances and situations that we're in. And it happens when we're triggered, right? That we need to hit the pause button. Well, what would happen if we just decided, this is happening right now? I may not like it, but I can face it And I won't respond like a reaction. I'm going to respond like a person with clarity that has the regulation that I need to move forward in a direction that works for me. Okay. Now, let's talk about everyday life first. So we'll start with that piece first. Traffic jams, right? How many of us start road raging and saying stuff we're not supposed to be saying because we're impatient? We have to realize that everyday life stuff that we're not practicing radical acceptance in. Okay. What about miscommunications? When we miscommunicate, we get defensive, we get offended, we get like, well, that's not what I said. Instead of radically accepting that perhaps the person doesn't have the capacity to understand us, or maybe they didn't hear us correctly the first time if they got some auditory processing thing, neurospice. What about delays? Your appointment that you've been looking forward to for so long got delayed, right? What about the emotional waves that you have coming up in your experience where you're like, well, who am I mad at and who could I take it out on? So if we instead shifted into that radical acceptance, okay, I'm in traffic, and maybe shift our mindset when we're in that pause moment and decide in that moment, you know what? Maybe spirit's just delaying me from reaching my destination right at this moment because maybe I'm being protected from something else. Just a little mindset shift to flip the script on it so it's not like the end all be all. Okay? When there's miscommunication, well, let me repeat that. And if it's still not understood, I'll ask them, what clarity do you need? I'm glad, ask me how can I add clarity to that situation? You know, things like that to ease the communication. So when we accept that maybe the person didn't understand or didn't hear immediately, instead of jumping to that defense, we've already alleviated all of that argument that we have within our head, right? And that's the day-to-day stuff like that. So what I want you to do is decide for yourself that you choose to accept things fully in the moment. And I want to remind you that if you're not accepting things in the everyday little moments, just as they are, for the is what it is, for the things that are what they are, you're adding so much more stress into your experience. That's not protecting your peace. That's not accepting yourself fully indirectly. Because if you're impatient with something that's beyond your control, or with someone who's you're not responsible for how they feel, or for your emotional waves that come up and down, or for some other kind of clarity in just everyday circumstances, like Marie pooped in the house yesterday, my dog. So like, why would I add stress to myself because she did something that she had no control over in that particular moment, and it was completely my fault? So, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of radical acceptance brings you back into a space of being patient with yourself. So if we're not patient with our external stuff, we're also not patient with ourselves. And that's not accepting ourselves and our reality for what it is. What about work? Okay, how many of us are at work and there's a person or your boss gives you extra responsibility, and there's somebody didn't do something the way you would, or put you in trouble in some way? Okay, that's the circumstance in the moment. What are we supposed to do about something we have no control over that's outside of us? Nothing, except accept it. If we accept it radically for what it is, the reality that it is, then we can make a clear decision on how we want to move forward. Getting more responsibility than you're getting paid for? You can say and communicate that very thing, okay? But in that professional way that I know I pointed you guys in directions of learning healthy communication. But say your boss adds on responsibility to you that you don't have time for and didn't ask for. Then you say, this isn't within the scope of my job description, and I'm happy to assist. We can communicate about compensation for this additional piece. And talk about compensation for that. There's things you can say that bring you what you need without sacrificing yourself. Okay. So radical acceptance gives us a choice. It gives us a choice in the moment to get ourselves out of that dysregulated state and bring clarity into a circumstance and situation. It's creating safety for ourselves. What happens when your coworker is doing some stuff that he's not supposed to be doing, or she's not supposed to be doing, or they aren't supposed to be doing, and it puts you in a position where it reflects poorly on you? You can communicate. You accept that their behavior is not your fault or your responsibility, but you are very clear and act and think with integrity if you accept it's not personal. You accept their limitations for where they're at. Okay. We need to have that practice of full on acceptance so that you can create safety for yourself in every one of those moments. What about relationships? How many times do we get frustrated with somebody that we're with? How many times do we just assume that they should, could, would, X, Y, and Z, instead of accepting that might be their capacity, that might just be their limitation, that might just be where they're at. So let's talk about that too. How many of us, and as I'm talking, I want you guys to think of questions to put in for me when I go through whatever gamut of areas in life where radical acceptance, what it looks like. So in relationships, we have to accept what's happening with our partner, what's the circumstances are realistically, and accept situations for what they are with a level head. We can't do that if we don't accept it. If we jump into defensive annoyance and whatever other emotions create that inner argument, like this can't be happening right now. And did they really just say that? Those little things that get us all worked up on the inside. When we just accept that whatever's the circumstances are beyond our control, we get an opportunity to bring ourselves into a peaceful state of being. We can't maintain our inner peace if we don't first accept life as it is in every single moment. Because no matter what happens, we need to feel like we're meeting ourselves with presence, with patience, with clarity, and with full acceptance. Without that full acceptance, we don't really learn how to trust ourselves. We don't really stabilize our inner arguments. We don't really give ourselves an opportunity to practice fulfilling our needs, allowing ourselves to be heard clearly, giving ourselves a chance to be honest about how we feel about situations and circumstances. And this translates to everything in life, including the material world. How many of us have lost things, stuff, material stuff in our lives because other people or circumstances or situations? Some people lose things in a fire. Some people have things stolen from them. I think we've all experienced a little bit of something. Sometimes you just lose grandma's ring. You know what I'm saying? What happens if we don't radically accept in that moment, okay, this is the actual situation? How can we allow ourselves to move forward with more clarity and with peace if we are clinging on to certain things that are creating more inner turmoil for us? Shit happens, life happens. Bad things that are uncomfortable and super inconvenient are going to happen no matter what. What acceptance tells you is that you do unconditionally love yourself enough to say you will not abandon yourself in any difficult moment. You will not shame yourself for what you're feeling in any challenging crisis or difficult moment. You'll meet yourself with compassion. Okay. What happens when we all get a diagnosis from the doctor and okay, this is where our bodies are at. What happens when we're having a bad day and we can't get out of bed and our bodies are hurting or something else is really off with us? What are we going to do? Are we going to create chaos, which adds more cortisol to your body and does not help the healing process? Or accept, okay, this is where my body's at. What can I do to love myself? What can I do to help myself in this moment? Who can I reach out to for assistance? How can I give myself the support that I need? Radical acceptance allows us to answer those questions with our self love, with our self compassion, and with our inner peace at heart and in mind, so that we can help ourselves move into this place of maintaining that inner peace. We talk about, I mean, the whole goal is to feel safe. And in order to have inner peace, you have to feel safe. And the first part of feeling safe is to recognize what the reality is, the very truth of it, not what we want it to be, not what we hope, not what we expect, because we shouldn't have we just shouldn't. Expectations bring problems, right? Because sometimes things don't meet our expectation. Instead of creating that inner turmoil and inner argument, we can practice radical acceptance right there in that moment when we feel it, when we pause. Radical acceptance. This is the truth that I'm dealing with. What do I do next? How do I want to feel next? What's my mindset going to be? What's a healthy mindset to shift into? What's a healthy space and place for me to be in right now? How can I healthily and lovingly communicate my needs or communicate my perspective without taking on responsibility for someone else's reaction or without betraying myself in any way? What about crisis situations? We've all been in crisis situations, right? Whether it's at work, at home, on the road. Okay. I was telling my Sunday circle, I witnessed an accident a few years ago. And because I'm at peace and I'm very, even and steady, and I radically accept situations for what they are, I was very calmly able to pull over and be the first responder there and orchestrated the whole thing very calmly and peacefully, and then delegated, and then continued my journey to work at that time. And so, like, we can't respond and show up in the ways that we want to or need to if we're not radically accepting the truth of the reality for what it is in every single specific moment. So that's what I wanted to share with you today and just help you wrap your head around. And I want to talk about all the little details in your life where you get triggered and where you're not sure that you respond in a healthy way, and then maybe help you with shifting perspectives on that in order to help you radically accept in those moments, for you to be able to move forward in a healthier way. That doesn't mean that you're not going to feel bad. That doesn't mean that we're going to bypass our emotional waves. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have terrible things happen here and there. Life happens. It isn't always pleasant. Interactions happen. They're not always pleasant. Even the good stuff takes time to radically accept. There we are. We have to have time to radically accept. And even the good stuff, like someone gives you a gift that you don't know how to accept because it's, there's trauma behind you receiving gifts. If you practice radical acceptance, it helps you feel worthy of those gifts. So there's two sides to this. It's not just the bad stuff. It's the everyday life and every moment stuff. How many times somebody try to help you, but you're like, nah, because you're already judging it and you're already turning it away instead of seeing them for who they truly are and radically accepting the circumstances as a safe circumstance for you to practice receiving and give yourself that idea that, okay, maybe I am worthy of receiving. So there's a bunch of different things and aspects of radical acceptance that will impact our own overall health and well-being moving forward. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to open it up because I want to hear from you. Sparrow says, what does physical and emotional responses to radical acceptance look like while also recognizing self-preservation? Okay, so, and I'll give you a personal example. I'll share myself. Actually, I won't. I'm going to go down, wait, because I'll save that for something else. I'm going to go down a different road. Who remembers a few weeks ago? Of course, we all remember. We don't forget. The gentleman, Alex, that was killed and murdered on the street in Minneapolis. And I know we've all seen videos. Yes, I'm going here. We've all seen the videos over and over and over again. If you notice how regulated, calm, intentionally thoughtful, and decisive he was, never lost his calm, never lost his cool, was incredibly regulated and incredibly clear through all of it. That was a man who had radically accepted any and all outcomes and was at peace with any and all outcomes before he even stepped into those situations. He knew the possibilities and he accepted them fully, and that showed in how he presented himself. So I think that might be an example that you can see that you basically make peace with whatever the potentials are, whatever the outcomes are in an instant. The emotional regulation piece comes with the acceptance. Okay? When you make peace with the facts, the truth, the reality, you can see the nervous system difference. We saw a difference between Renee Good and Alex. I'm using that example because they're two very different. Like, you could see how dysregulated and like nervous and scared she was, and her wife as well. You see that there was no clarity there and she was trying to make sense of things. With Alex, you saw the clarity. His actions showed the clarity. I'm sorry, Sparrow. I hope that's good chills, but you know, there's a difference. It's almost like the radical acceptance of whatever the circumstances are in every moment make you feel the weight of the understanding so that you can accept it peacefully. Internal peace is very difficult. It is very difficult. I mean, I've had circumstances in my own, but what about when you're personally being disrespected in a moment, right? How many of us have gotten personally disrespected a gazillion times? Let's talk about a circumstance when you got disrespected. How did you respond in that moment? Your body told you something was wrong, right? Did you react in defensiveness? Did you over-explain yourself? Did you try to shift the person's perspective of you or perception of you? Yep. All these little things that we're doing isn't accepting the fact that they may not have the capacity, or they may not have the heart-centered space that you're existing in. They may not be on a journey that you're on. And so, yep, all of the above. When we radically accept the fact that whoever we're dealing with and whoever's disrespecting us doesn't have the capacity to meet us where we're at, then we can choose to maintain and protect our energy and maintain and protect our integrity in those moments, and choose to respond and communicate in a very different way that separates us from their limitations. Okay? Radical acceptance in moments where there's conflict is important so that you have the mental function and the clarity to respond in a way that does not betray you, that does not lessen or dim your light, that does not shrink you. Okay? Because when you're at peace within yourself and radically accept, not everyone's going to vibe with you, not everyone's going to resonate with you. That's okay. That's totally okay, especially when you're neurospicy. I love that I have neurospicies in here. Especially when you're neurospicy. because that radical acceptance is self-compassion. It's married to self-compassion. Radically accepting the reality of your own capacity and your own limitations is expressing compassion towards yourself, is loving yourself genuinely. Realizing that others, I'm looking at what Sparrow said, making peace, realizing others' energy may be content, productive, but keeping humble. Yeah. So it does keep us humble. When we accept situations and circumstances for what they are, we realize that, okay, I say okay is my favorite word. Here's where we sabotage ourselves when we're not radically accepting. We say stuff like, of course, this is going to be happening in my life. Geez, what else would I expect? Well, that's just my luck. What are we actually doing here? We're actually putting that on ourselves and asking for more of it instead of radically accepting the reality of the circumstances of the person or the situation and deciding, okay, this is what we're dealing with. How can I love myself through this or show up for myself in a way that's going to be productive and healthy for my overall health and well-being, right? So that's what we guess the forces doing their own thing. Yeah. Humility of realizing your limits, but accepting others. Acceptance doesn't mean tolerance. It does not mean that we're approving. It means that we are seeing the reality for what it is. It means that we are accepting the circumstances as they are for the truth that it is. Doesn't mean that we approve of it. Doesn't mean it's convenient. Doesn't mean we want to experience it. Doesn't mean that we're going to tolerate certain things from certain people. It means that we're accepting that it sucks. We're accepting that it's inconvenient. We're accepting that it's just what we got to deal with in this moment so that we can have the clarity to move through it with peace and integrity, right? How many of you because I know there's a few, how many of you have diagnoses and issues physically? Okay. I'm struggling myself recently with some physical issues and the pain that I'm getting and whatnot. And I'm not accepting that happens sometimes. It does. What I'm doing in those moments is offering myself the rest and replenishment that I need to the best of my own capacity and ability. And I'm giving myself the opportunity to give myself the healing that I need from where I need, how I need. And each person's circumstances is going to be different. We got a cancer diagnosis on my mom many, many moons ago. She's in remission now. But at that time, okay, mom's down for the count for this amount of time. Let's come up with a plan and who's going to help with what. There was clarity, there was peace, and there was acceptance that we as a family are going to get through what we're going to get through. And so like when we're dealing with our physical body, sometimes we feel so helpless and so frustrated and so annoyed that we start to go our mood, right? We get ourselves depressed, don't we, real fast. With the radical acceptance, there has to be compassion and self-love that comes from there. So we give ourselves the love that we need in those moments without making ourselves miserable, because we're going to remind ourselves when we accept the truth, we're going to get through it. We're going to pull ourselves out of it. Our bodies are going to heal. We're going to help our bodies heal. We're going to love ourselves to get there so that we can heal. I think that Sparrow says, I think that when you're vocal with others about why radically accepting them, it really does give them self-reflection to possibly want to change because of how much they care about your opinion. Yes, thank you. The typos. So we can inspire someone else when we radically accept circumstances and situations. It might provide them an opportunity for self-reflection. And in those moments of accepting the reality and the truth for what it really is with integrity, meaning we're not going to betray ourselves just to comfort someone else's limitations, I should say it that way. They might have an opportunity to reflect and change. However, they'll show us if they're open to that transformation in their own responses and limitations. Here's my reality. What can I do without losing my peace? That's true. That's exactly right, Micah. Thank you. Yes, we do give people an opportunity to mirror and respond in a way that's healthier for them. They may not choose to, though, and we also need to accept where they're at. It's not going to be comfortable and it's not always pleasant because you want people to vibe with you, but they don't. You want circumstances to go your way, but it doesn't. You want to get there on time, but you couldn't because something got in the way. Yeah, how many times it's like, I know road rage is a thing for a lot of people that still struggle with it. And radical acceptance is recognizing you're not in control of other people and other things around you. You are in control of how you respond. That's the only thing you actually have control over, is how you respond. So we want to give ourselves the opportunity to respond in a healthiest way possible for ourselves, in the greatest degree of love for ourselves. Michael says, it's still hard for me to be honest, be out of my feelings when someone, because I'm still afraid that they'll get mad at me and walk away. Yeah. Even if they have been accepting in the past, there's still always the fear that makes me hold back out of fear of loss. It's getting easier, but it makes me feel like I want to puke when I do and am physically shaky, lightheaded afterwards. That sounds like you get anxiety and a panic attack in those circumstances. Absolutely, 100% your nervous system response to the abandonment wound within, right? However, when we decide that we're okay, no matter what happens, because we have our own back and we are making ourselves feel safe and we trust ourselves and trust our intuition, we will be okay if we lose someone who cannot see us for who we are in our hearts, who cannot value us for who we are in our hearts, and who does not have the capacity to meet us on our journey where we've had the ability to thrive to. Okay? Acceptance means being at peace with whoever walks away from your world, connected to everything and everyone, attached to nothing, not a person, not a thing, not a place, not a circumstance, understanding that we are safe within ourselves at all times. I'm at the story time. A couple of years, and this is about an object, okay? My mother's amethyst. And she doesn't even know that it's gone. Everyone else knows but my mom, because it would be an issue for her and she would have a lot of difficulty accepting it. So it's, she don't need to know. But I'm sharing this because my first response to recognizing that the amethyst on my ring disappeared was, no. And then it was, okay. Well, maybe X, Y, and Z. It was a daddy-daughter dance. It was an event that was just so loving, and so it was under the sea theme. So there was fake gems everywhere. And I decided in that very moment, within 2 seconds or within a second, that maybe some little girl found it, and it was her most magical day ever, because amongst all the fake ones, there was this one that was so different. Maybe it went into a garbage can and into the landfill. And maybe Mother Nature is going to need the strength and the power of that amethyst. Mindset shift in that moment took all the weight off of me, and radically accepting and deciding I received what I needed from that particular item, and it being gone from my experience does not take away how I felt when I held it when I was a kid, because it was a necklace. This is what I would do when I was in my mom's arms. This is what I would do. Her amethyst was inside of a pendant. I would hold on to that thing. And that's why I had talked to my mom about it later on in life and ended up making it into a ring for myself because it meant so much to me growing up. And having that amethyst just made me feel good. So that doesn't go away. I got what I needed from that particular item. My mother's love was still in it. My life is still better for having it in my experience. That can never disappear. That can never be taken away. So that kind of radical acceptance and understanding. And what we have in here, the memories that we hold in our hippocampus, we're never going to lose those unless we shut out the acceptance of the truth of the circumstances. How many trauma survivors, I'm going to go down this road too. How many trauma survivors here have memory loss? Holes in our memory, right? Things that we wish we could remember. I will tell you this, it's not gone permanently. It's locked up in some back office archives way back somewhere else. It can resurface if we decide to radically accept what's done is done, what happened happened, what's gone is gone. We lived through what we lived through, and hanging on to the joyful moments that we had, hanging on to the emotions of those moments that brought us peace, love, and joy. That's when we can absolutely give ourselves an opportunity to have something come back into our memory bank. Okay. Remember that there's parts of your brain that are going to become inflamed and overactive. The amygdala becomes overactive and takes over, and you shrink your hippocampus. You shrink that part of your brain that's responsible for peace, love, joy, and happiness. Okay. We don't want to do that. We want to help that part of our brain come back to life and shrink the other part of our brain that's overactive in survival mode, trying to protect us. Okay. Amygdala is not always a nice lady. That's funny. Yes, overstimulation is not fun. That's hilarious. We've all experienced various arrays of crisis situations and circumstances with people, places, and things where we couldn't believe this was happening and we had trouble accepting. That internal battle releases more cortisol and makes that part of your brain get overactive. So radical acceptance will assist you in bringing your nervous system back down, trusting yourself, making yourself feel safe, affirming yourself, flipping the script and the mindset into something positive, and giving yourself an opportunity to maintain the inner peace or create the inner peace that we're all striving for. We're all, the proverbial, you climb up the mountain to see the guru. What's the meaning of life? Okay. The reality is we all want safety and peace. That's it. We all just want to freaking be without having issues to create more discord within our bodies and distress in our systems, right? In order to have that peace, we have to be okay no matter what. We can't be okay no matter what if we're chaos, if we're breeding chaos by not having that radical acceptance in those moments. I want to hear your examples of radical acceptance. Give me a time when you had to accept something and how it took the weight off of you. Sparrow says mutual radical acceptance due to different opinions, but the love still overpowers. Yeah. A healthy physical response helps the emotional mind. Exactly. And it helps because you're not dumping all that cortisol when you're in fight or flight mode, like you know what I mean? You're in fight or flight mode. That cortisol is just dumping all over the place, inflating your amygdala, and your hippocampus is like, nah. We stop thinking. We can't, it affects your frontal cortex here and your executive function. You can't think straight when cortisol is being dumped to keep you safe. That radical acceptance helps your entire being be okay. And that peace isn't going to come unless we decide that we don't want to feel a certain kind of way. And we can't shame ourselves or judge circumstances or situations and have inner peace. Shame, judgment, expectations, impatience, frustration, resentment, all that stuff, and the list goes on and on. All that stuff is not included in radical acceptance. We can accept that we're feeling that way and allow ourselves to process it so that we can clearly shift our mindset and our circumstances and make decisions that are intentional, that help us protect our peace. Okay? Chaos happens. We have a thought which generates a response. And in that moment, we can choose the experience we have before having to calm down once the body reacts. Yeah, that's the pause button. Hit the pause button. Accept the situation and circumstance for what it is in truth. Accept how you're feeling, how your body's responding to it in truth in that moment. And it's a choice from there on out. Choose to implement something new. Choose to think something different. Choose to show up differently. Choose to change the situation. Choose to distance yourself. Choose to help in a crisis in a way that's productive and not, oh my God, we got to call this. I'm just acting it out here. It's a little exaggerated for a reason. How many of us in the past have had crisis situations and totally freaked out and with riddled with anxiety? How many times do we have to confront somebody and bring something up that is uncomfortable? We have to radically accept they may not be okay with what we're saying, and they may not know how to radically accept in their own life. They don't know what we know. They're not practicing what we practice. So how can you expect them to? So we have to accept all potentialities and all possibilities. And let me read here what Michael's saying. The first time I saw a person that did what they did to me, 10 years, it had been 10 years, wow. And he smirked at me, the switch in my head flipped, and I didn't quite feel in control, but I walked up and hugged him and told him I forgave him and walked away. In that moment, I accepted all the anxiety that was left over. Was mine, not his. And I owned it so that I could say he had no power over me anymore. I had to accept the bad to get the good. 100%, Michael. That's a great example. Yes, we have no control over someone else. We only can control how we feel about the situations. Sometimes it's us carrying those feelings of being ill-perceived or misunderstood or unheard. And Sparrow says, I have to accept that there are people around me who watch and wait for me to fail, right? Even when it's family. Oh, yes, that's the hardest part. It is the hardest part. And it's having to withdraw due to knowing the intention of others. The complex that my twin has with me is very detrimental at times. Yeah. So I choose to self-preserve a lot of times with my family, but I don't stop communicating entirely, but it's never easy. Yes. So the self-preservation, protecting your peace, when you radically accept that not everyone's going to meet you where they're at or has a capacity within their own limitations to be where you're at, we can shift how we communicate with them and decide for ourselves how much of ourselves to give and share and tell them. I don't even share with my own family a lot of stuff anymore because they don't understand me at all. They don't. Some of them, not all of them. I have some family that's fabulous and some that's still like, we don't get it. My parents are, raised me Catholic. I came from a Catholic background as far as religion goes. So it's hard for them to be like, well, we don't understand what your reverend thing means, but, whatever religious statements follow that. So I'm okay. I'm at complete peace with not being understood. I don't have to prove myself to anyone because I accept myself exactly as I am. And that's the important takeaway. Accepting ourselves exactly where we're at, good and bad, no matter what the circumstances are, and giving ourselves permission to decide we're going to choose and intentionally act and behave in ways that is healthiest for our overall health and well-being that we are actually aware of in that moment. We do the best that we can in the moments that come up. We don't necessarily know all the right things until some time goes by, maybe, and we learn something new. And Brindle says, Micah says, I have to accept that not everyone is going to be able to understand my weakness, even when they are set to the side in presentation. Yes, not everyone can know you. Not everyone can understand you. Not everyone is going to have the capacity to even self-reflect. Don't dismiss any interaction that you have, and don't dismiss communicating in a healthier way that's not betraying yourself. Your authenticity inspires others, even if those others' initial reaction might be like, what you talking about, Willis? Give it a minute. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe they'll see and be like, I thought about that, and maybe this might feel better for me to think this way. We will see that when in our own families and friends groups and office groups and whatever life circumstances. If we show up differently because we're at peace, then other people see, like, well, how come she's so chill? What are they doing different? Let me learn something maybe, because I want what she's having. I'm stressed out all the time and they're not. How come? Why aren't you stressed out all the time? This sucks. Because I accepted it sucks. I'm okay with it sucking. I just got to decide what I'm going to do forward. I may not appreciate going through it, but I'm going to appreciate the experience of practicing acceptance and choosing to maintain my inner peace. Yes. And we do have When Friends Collide coming up on Phoenix Talk on Wednesday. So make sure you catch that, because we're going to dive into that very specific dynamic that's going to be super, super, super important. You all are amazing. I think we ran out of time, didn't we? Because we're almost at it. I love you all so much, and you all have so much amazing, inspirational things to share with each other. So thank you for all of your comments and talking about all these amazing topics with us every week. Just love yourself. Oh, and Karen says, and sometimes it can be a painful truth to see how less someone thinks of themselves and reflect it. Yes. You still love them. Yes, exactly. And you're thankful that they choose you, correct, but they have to choose themselves in order to fully choose you. And that's something that I know that when we accept ourselves fully, people notice. When we have radical acceptance, we maintain inner peace, people notice. We might inspire somebody. Be authentic. We're not bypassing, we're just accepting. Just be authentic. You guys are amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you. This is Embers of Light. This has all of us, Carrie, Micah, myself, everybody's on here. Every show is on here. So this is where your go-to is now. If you want to find me specifically on healingrose.org and book your free discovery call, or reach out to me on social media and we'll just book it directly, and I'll work with your schedule, because I know I have only specific times allotted for my healingrose.org site. So just reach out to me on socials. Y'all got me on socials. It's all good. And practice radical acceptance when you feel triggered, so that you have the clarity to move forward in a loving and healthy way for yourself. Okay? I love you so much. Thank you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Go love yourself, as Micah and I say.
From the soil of your sorrow, petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a sun.
Hey, this is Brindle Wolf.
And I'm Lunaria.
You're listening to Rise Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise awakening, hear the call. Through the shining, we break the wall. Your nation, your voice, where dreams awaken in life. Rise awakening, now is the time.
Rise Awakenings. Let's rise together.